The Maine Coon's heart stopped beating under my hands at exactly 11:47 p.m., and the man with eyes like a winter sea didn't blink, didn't breathe, just watched me with the kind of stillness that meant someone was about to die. Maybe the cat, maybe me. I slammed my palm against the tiny ribcage and started compressions anyway, because I'd already told him I could save this animal, and men who arrived with 4 black cars and enough guns to start a small war didn't appreciate being lied to. "Alara," my mother's voice came sharp from the doorway, tight with the kind of fear that made my own hands steadier. "The police are not coming," the man said, without looking away from me, and his voice was like cold water over stone, smooth and utterly certain. "Keep working, Dr. Wynne." I kept working. 30 compressions, controlled and rhythmic, counting in my head while my brain screamed that this was insane, that we should have turned them away, that the pounding on our door 20 minutes ago had sounded like desperation, but looked like danger the moment I'd opened it. 4 men in dark suits, rain-soaked, silent, and him. He'd carried the cat himself, cradled against his chest like something holy, and the animal had been blue-gray smoke in his arms, massive and gasping, his heart trying to tear itself apart inside a rib cage, bred too large and too fragile all at once. "Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy," I'd said immediately, my hands already moving to take the cat, already reading the cyanotic gums and the desperate heaving breaths. "How long has he been in distress?" 30 minutes. Every other clinic turned us away. "Because it's past midnight and you look like you're about to shoot someone?" His mouth had curved then, just slightly, and it hadn't looked like a smile, so much as an acknowledgement of something true and dangerous between us. Now his cat was dead under my hands, and I had maybe 90 seconds before brain damage became irreversible. I grabbed the crash kit, ancient, half the supplies past their prime because we couldn't afford to restock, and prepped the epinephrine with hands that didn't shake because I couldn't afford for them to shake. "What are you doing?" One of his men stepped forward, hand moving toward his jacket. "Saving him," I snapped. "Back up. You're blocking my light." The man froze, looked at his boss, the one with winter eyes and a face that could have been carved from marble for how little it moved, tilted his head a fraction of an inch. The man backed up. I administered the injection directly into the cat's chest cavity, bypassed the failing heart, and went back to compressions. 15 seconds. 30. My mother's hand appeared in my peripheral vision, holding the ambu bag I'd need when, the heart restarted. She was terrified. I could feel it rolling off her in waves. But her hands were steady too, because she'd taught me everything I knew about staying calm when the world was ending. 45 seconds. "Come on," I whispered, and I didn't know if I was talking to the cat or to God or to my own desperate, reckless self that had opened the door. "Come on, you stubborn bastard. Come on." The heart kicked, stuttered, kicked again. I felt it under my palm like a miracle, like a curse, and I grabbed the ambu bag from my mother and started forcing oxygen into collapsing lungs while his heart remembered how to beat. "Get him on the oxygen," I said, and my voice came out hoarse. "Mama, I need the portable monitor, the IV kit, and every towel we have. He's hypothermic." She moved without argument, and I was distantly aware that none of the men in my clinic had moved, that they were all still watching like I was performing some kind of ritual they didn't understand but recognized as vital. The man with winter eyes spoke. "Will he live?" I looked up at him while I threaded the IV line into a vein I could barely find under wet, matted fur. His face was still expressionless, but something in the way he stood, the rigid line of his shoulders, the absolute focus of his attention, told me this animal meant something, told me it might mean everything. "I don't know," I said, because I'd learned a long time ago that lying to desperate people only made the aftermath worse. "His heart is badly damaged. The muscle walls are thickened, probably genetic, and he's been in acute failure for at least 30 minutes. I can stabilize him for tonight, but he needs constant monitoring, probably medication for the rest of his life, and another episode like this could kill him before I can even get my hands on him." I finished securing the IV and reached for the warming blankets my mother had brought. "He needs a cardiologist, a specialist. I'm just a small clinic vet who, you brought him back. Barely. The other clinic said he was already dead." I looked down at the cat. His breathing was still labored, but the blue tinge was fading from his gums, and the monitor showed a heartbeat that was thready and irregular but present. He's not dead, I said, but he's not safe either. The man moved then, finally, stepping closer to the table until I could smell rain and something darker, like gunpowder or expensive cologne or both. He looked down at the cat with an expression I couldn't read, and when he spoke again his voice was quieter, softer, more dangerous. Tell me what you need. I stopped, because what I needed was for these men to leave, for my mother to stop looking at me like I'd just signed our death warrant, for my hands to stop trembling now that the adrenaline was fading. I need to monitor him through the night. If his heart destabilizes again, I'll have maybe 5 minutes to intervene. I need to adjust his medication every few hours based on his response. I'll pay you, he said, and it wasn't an offer. Whatever it costs, name your price. I stared at him, at the elegant cut of his suit that probably cost more than my clinic's monthly rent, at the way his men watched him like soldiers waiting for orders, at the gun I could see now, barely concealed under his jacket. I don't want your money, I said, and my mother made a small, desperate sound behind me. His eyebrow lifted, just barely. Everyone wants money, Dr. Wynne. I want you to leave. I met his eyes and didn't let myself look away, even though everything in me screamed that looking directly at a man like this was a mistake. I want you to take your guns and your cars and whatever war you're fighting and leave my clinic out of it. No. The word was flat, final. I felt my jaw tighten. Excuse me. I said no. He leaned forward, bracing one hand on the edge of my surgical table, close enough that I could see the exact shade of gray in his eyes, like ice over deep water. This cat doesn't leave your care until he's stable. That means you don't leave either. You can't. I can. He straightened, and the movement was controlled, precise, like everything about him. You're the only person who's kept him alive tonight. That makes you valuable. And valuable things, Dr. Wynne, don't get to walk away until I'm finished with them. My heart was pounding now, hard enough that I wondered if he could see it, if he could read fear the way I could read a failing cardiac rhythm. My mother will go home, safely, with an escort to make sure she arrives without incident. He glanced at my mother, and his voice didn't change. You have my word that no harm will come to her. Your word, I repeated, and I heard the edge in my own voice, the recklessness that had always gotten me in trouble. Why should I trust the word of a man who kicks down doors at midnight with enough firepower to invade a small country? One of his men shifted, reached for his gun. The man with winter eyes raised one finger, and the motion stopped instantly. Then he smiled at me, and it was the most terrifying thing I'd seen all night. Because, Dr. Wynne, he said softly, if I wanted to hurt you, we wouldn't be having this conversation. He tilted his head toward the cat. And because you're smart enough to know that the only reason you're still standing here arguing with me is that I need you alive and functional. He was right. I hated that he was right. Fine, I said, and the word tasted like ash. But I have conditions. Of course you do. No guns in the surgical area. No interference with my treatment decisions. And if he crashes again, everyone gets out of my way, or I let him die on this table just to spite you. The smile widened. Just a fraction. Agreed. I'm serious. So am I. He pulled out a phone, typed something with quick, efficient movements. You'll have whatever supplies you need delivered within the hour. My men will secure the building. And you, Dr. Wynne, will keep my cat alive. He turned to leave, and I should have kept my mouth shut, should have just nodded and survived. But I'd never been good at doing what I should. What's his name? I asked. He paused in the doorway, rain and streetlight haloing him from behind. Arsenio, he said quietly. His name is Arsenio. Then he was gone, and my mother was gripping my arm hard enough to bruise, and the cat, Arsenio, was breathing in shallow, fragile gasps on my table. Ilara, my mother whispered, what have you done? I looked down at the blue smoke Maine Coon, at his massive, damaged heart struggling inside a chest that should have been strong enough to hold it. I have no idea, I said, but I was already checking his vitals again, already adjusting the oxygen flow, already planning the next 6 hours of monitoring and medication and desperate, careful vigilance. I'd brought him back once. I could do it again. I had to. Because the man with winter eyes had made it very clear that failure wasn't an option. And I was starting to realize that my life, my mother's life, my clinic, everything I'd built, now depended on the heartbeat of a cat I'd never met before tonight. Outside, engines started. 3 of the cars pulled away. 1 stayed. The first night lasted forever. I moved through it in a haze of vital checks and medication adjustments, my hands working on autopilot while my brain tried to process what had just happened to my life. Every 15 minutes, I checked Arsenio's heart rate, respiratory rate, temperature. Every hour, I adjusted his IV drip based on how his body was responding. And every time I glanced toward the clinic's front windows, I saw the black car still parked outside. Waiting. My mother had left 2 hours ago, escorted by one of the silent men in dark suits. She'd hugged me at the door, hard enough to crack ribs, and whispered, "Be careful," in a voice that said she knew careful was already off the table. Now it was just me, the cat, and the horrible fluorescent hum of the clinic at 3 a.m. I was checking Arsenio's gum color for the 8th time when I heard the door open. My spine went rigid. He moved like water, soundless despite the expensive shoes and the weight of whatever he carried in his pockets. I didn't turn around, just kept my hands on the cat, kept my breathing steady. "His heart rate is elevated," I said, because if I was going to be trapped here, I might as well be professional about it. "But stable. The arrhythmia is persistent, but not worsening." "You haven't slept. Neither have you." I finally looked up and found him standing at the edge of the surgical area, careful not to cross the invisible line I'd drawn. No guns past this point. He'd actually listened. That was almost more unsettling than the gun itself. "I don't sleep much," he said, and there was something in his voice that made me think it wasn't a choice. "Show me." "Show you what?" "How bad it is." I hesitated, then pulled up the portable ultrasound I'd been using to monitor the heart structure. The screen flickered to life, showing the thick, struggling walls of Arsenio's left ventricle. "Here," I traced the image with one finger. "The muscle is thickened, probably 3 times normal size. It means the heart can't pump efficiently. Every beat is harder than it should be. And this," I pointed to a section where the wall looked uneven, "is scarring, old damage. He's had episodes before tonight." He stared at the screen, and something shifted in his expression. Not softness exactly, but something raw and briefly unguarded. "How long?" His voice was rough. Impossible to say without his history, but this kind of scarring doesn't happen overnight. I pulled the ultrasound wand away, began cleaning it. "How long have you had him?" 3 years. "Has he ever collapsed before? Shown breathing problems? Lethargy?" "No." He paused. "He's always been careful, doesn't play rough, sleeps more than my other." He stopped. "Your other cats?" "I don't have other cats." I looked at him, at the way he was still staring at the ultrasound screen, like it held answers to questions he wasn't asking out loud. "He was someone else's," I said quietly. It wasn't a question. His eyes snapped to mine, and for a second the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "That's none of your concern, Dr. Wynn." "You're right." I turned back to Arsenio, checked his IV line. "But if you want me to keep him alive, I need to know what I'm working with. Was he sick when you got him? Did the previous owner mention any health issues? Has he been under unusual stress recently?" Silence stretched between us like a wire pulled taut. Then, "He belonged to my sister." The words came out flat, emotionless, but I heard the wound underneath them anyway. I didn't push, just waited. "She died 3 years ago. Arsenio was hers. Now he's mine." He moved closer, finally, crossing into the surgical area with careful, deliberate steps. "And he's the only thing left that's still—" He stopped. I understood anyway. The only thing left that still felt human, still felt clean, still felt like something other than blood and money and whatever darkness he carried. "I'll keep him alive," I said, and I meant it more now than I had before. He looked at me for a long moment, and I couldn't read what was happening behind those winter eyes. "I believe you," he said finally. Then he pulled up a chair, one of my worn, uncomfortable waiting room chairs, and sat down 3 feet from the surgical table. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Staying." "You don't need to. I'm staying, Dr. Wynne." I should have argued. Should have told him to leave, that I worked better alone. That having him watch me was like performing surgery under a microscope made of ice and threat. But there was something about the way he'd said it. Like staying wasn't about trust or control. Like it was about the fact that if Arsenio died, he wanted to be there when it happened. So I went back to work, and he sat in that terrible chair, and somewhere around 4 a.m., the absurdity of it hit me hard enough that I almost laughed. "What?" he asked, because apparently nothing got past him. Nothing. I adjusted the oxygen flow, made a note on my chart. Just thinking that 3 hours ago I was about to go home and collapse into bed. Now I'm being held hostage by a man whose name I don't even know. "Caius," I blinked. "What?" "My name is Caius Vescari." He said it like he was handing me a weapon. "And you're not a hostage. You can leave whenever you want." "As long as the cat comes with me?" "As long as the cat lives, yes. So I'm a hostage with good marketing." His mouth curved again, that not quite smile that made my stomach do something complicated and inadvisable. "If you prefer." I shook my head, went back to my monitoring, but something had shifted. Some invisible wire between us had been cut, or maybe tied tighter, I couldn't tell which. At 5 a.m., Arsenio's heart rate spiked. I saw it on the monitor half a second before I felt it under my hands, that irregular, panicked rhythm that meant another crisis was building. "No," I breathed, and I was already reaching for the emergency kit, already running through the protocol in my head. Caius was on his feet instantly. "What's happening?" "Atrial fibrillation. His heart's trying to—" I broke off, focused on drawing up the medication. "I need you to hold him still. Not rough, just steady. Can you do that?" He didn't answer, just moved to the head of the table and placed his hands on either side of Arsenio's head, gentle and absolutely controlled. I administered the medication, praying it would convert the rhythm before the irregular beating caused a clot or worse. 30 seconds. 60. Caius's hands stayed perfectly still, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the rigid line of his jaw. "Come on," I whispered. "Come on, Arsenio. You don't get to die on me now. Not after I've spent 6 hours keeping you breathing. Come on." The rhythm converted. Shaky, but regular. I sagged against the table, suddenly aware that my legs were trembling, that I'd been holding my breath. He's okay." I checked the monitor again, triple-checked, because I didn't trust my own eyes anymore. "He's okay," but that was close. Caius hadn't moved. His hands were still bracketing Arsenio's head, and when I looked up at him, his face was bloodless. "How many more times?" he asked, and his voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't know." "Guess." "I don't guess, Dr. Wynne." I met his eyes, saw the desperation there that he was trying so hard to hide, and decided he deserved the truth even if it was brutal. If we're lucky, none. If we're not, 2 or 3 more before dawn. And then it depends on how his body responds to the medication over the next 48 hours. I paused. But that episode was triggered by something. Stress, maybe. Or the position he's lying in. Or? I looked at Caius, at the way he was still touching the cat like Arsenio was made of glass. Or someone's been poisoning him. The words fell into the space between us like stones into dark water. Caius's hand slowly lifted away from Arsenio. He straightened, and the expression on his face was the most terrifying thing I'd seen since he'd walked through my door. "Explain," he said, and it wasn't a request. "The scarring pattern." I pulled up the ultrasound images again. "It's not consistent with genetic disease alone. See here? This damage is localized, specific, like repeated exposure to something cardiotoxic." "What kind of something?" "Could be anything, certain plants, medications, chemicals." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the warmth of the clinic. But combined with tonight's acute episode and the fact that you said he's never shown symptoms before, someone's been hurting him, Caius, slowly, deliberately. His face didn't change, but the air around him did. became dense, dangerous. How long? The words came out like ground glass. Months probably, maybe a year. And if you hadn't figured this out, he would have died. Tonight or the next time, or the time after that. It would have looked like his heart just gave out. Caius turned away from me, from the table, and walked to the window, stood there looking out at the black car and the empty street beyond. When he spoke again, his voice was utterly calm, utterly lethal. No one touches him without your supervision. No one feeds him. No one enters his space. From this moment forward, you are the only person responsible for his care. Caius, that includes at my estate. I'm moving him there today, as soon as it's safe to transport him. You'll come with us. I have a clinic to run. Your mother can run it. He turned back to me, and his eyes were frozen oceans. This is not negotiable, Dr. Wynne. Someone in my organization has been trying to kill the only thing I... He stopped, breathed. Someone has been trying to kill him, which means they've been trying to kill me. And you just became the only person standing between success and failure. My heart was pounding again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was something worse. It was the realization that he was right, that I'd just made myself essential to whatever war he was fighting, and that walking away wasn't an option anymore. If it ever had been. I need to call my mother, I said. I'll have someone bring you a secure phone. I need to gather supplies. Already arranged. My people will pack whatever you need from the clinic. I stopped, because I didn't know what I needed anymore. Sleep. Sanity. A way out of this that didn't end with me being a casualty in someone else's vendetta. Caius crossed the space between us in 3 strides, and suddenly he was close enough that I could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, the shadow of stubble along his jaw. Close enough that I could smell rain still clinging to his coat and something else underneath, dark and cedar sharp. I know this isn't what you wanted, he said quietly. I know you opened your door tonight because you're the kind of person who can't turn away from something dying. But you're in this now, Ilara, all the way in, and the only way out is forward. He was using my first name now. When had that happened? And if I refuse, I asked, even though I already knew the answer. You won't. You sound very sure. I am. His eyes searched my face, reading something I didn't want him to see. Because you looked at that ultrasound and you saw exactly what I saw. Someone is hurting him. Someone is using him to hurt me. And you're not the kind of person who walks away from that. Every rational part of me wanted to argue. Instead, all I could feel was the sick, heavy certainty that he was right about me. Fine, I said, but I have conditions. More conditions? That almost smile again. My mother stays safe. The clinic stays protected. And if I find out you're lying to me about any of this, I walk, and I take Arsenio's medical files with me. Agreed. Just like that. Just like that. He stepped back, giving me space I hadn't realized I'd needed. I don't lie, Ilara. Not about things that matter. And this matters? He looked down at Arsenio, at the blue smoke cat breathing shallowly on my surgical table, and his face did something complicated. Yes, he said simply. This matters. Dawn broke gray and cold over the harbor, and by the time the sun was fully up, my entire world had been packed into 2 vehicles and transported to an estate on the cliffs north of the city. My mother had arrived at 6 a.m., escorted by the same silent men, and I'd spent 20 minutes convincing her I wasn't being kidnapped. Wasn't sure I believed it myself, but Caius had kept his word. The clinic was secured, guards posted discreetly. My mother had a new phone, top of the line, with numbers already programmed in. Use this, he'd told her, anytime, for anything. Now I stood in a bedroom 3 times the size of my apartment, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the sea, and tried to pretend my life made sense. Arsenio was set up in an adjoining room, not quite a bedroom, more like a luxury suite that had been converted into a medical facility. Everything I'd asked for was there. Everything I hadn't known I'd needed was there too. A knock at the door. Caius entered without waiting for permission, and I was too tired to be annoyed about it. He's stable, I said before he could ask. I know. I've been monitoring the feeds. I stopped. Looked at the corners of the room. saw the tiny cameras I'd been too exhausted to notice before. "You're watching him." "I'm watching everything." He moved to the window, looked out at the water. "My head of security will brief you on protocols. Where you can go, where you can't, who you can trust. Can I trust you?" The question came out before I could stop it. He turned and something flickered across his face. "No," he said quietly, "but you can trust that I need you to keep him alive, which means I need you safe, fed, rested, and effective. That makes your interests and mine aligned, at least for now." How reassuring. It's the truth, which is more than most people in my world will give you. I wanted to argue, wanted to throw his honesty back in his face and demand to be taken home. But I was so tired, and Arsenio was breathing 3 rooms away, and somewhere in this estate was the person who'd been trying to kill him. "I need to sleep," I said instead. "The bed is yours. I'll have food sent up in a few hours." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Alara." "What?" "Thank you, for tonight, for not letting him die." I looked at him, at this man who terrified me and fascinated me and had somehow become the axis my world turned on in the space of one impossible night. "Don't thank me yet," I said. "We're not out of danger." "No," he agreed. "We're not." Then he was gone, and I was alone in a gilded cage with a dying cat and a mystery that could kill us both. I collapsed onto the bed and was asleep before my head hit the pillow, and dreamed of winter eyes and failing hearts and the sound of a phone ringing in an empty clinic. I woke to screaming, not human screaming, worse, the high, desperate yowl of an animal in pain, and my feet hit the floor before my brain fully processed that I was awake, that I was in Caius's estate, that something was catastrophically wrong. I ran into Arsenio's room in bare feet and pajamas I didn't remember changing into, and found chaos. The cat was convulsing on the medical bed, his massive body arching and twisting, and the monitors were shrieking warnings I didn't need translated. Ventricular tachycardia. His heart was beating so fast it couldn't pump blood anymore. 2 of Caius's men stood frozen in the doorway, useless. "Get out," I shouted, already reaching for the emergency kit. "Where's Caius?" "On his way." "I don't have time. Out. Now." They fled. I grabbed the defibrillator paddles, top-of-the-line equipment that must have cost more than my entire clinic, and charged them while my hands moved through the protocol I'd drilled 1,000 times. Clear the airway, check the monitor, confirm the rhythm. V-tach, sustained. Pulse present but thready. Cardioversion, not defibrillation. Lower energy, more controlled. I placed the paddles, made sure nothing was touching him that could conduct, and delivered the shock. His body jerked. The monitor stuttered. Didn't convert. "Come on, Arsenio. Come on," I charged again, increased the energy. "You don't get to do this. Not after everything." The door slammed open and Caius was there, his hair disheveled like he'd been sleeping, his shirt half unbuttoned, and his face absolutely bloodless. "Alara?" "Not now." I delivered the second shock. The rhythm converted. Sinus tachycardia. Fast but regular. Survivable. I sagged against the bed, my hands shaking so badly I had to grip the railing to stay upright. Caius crossed to me in 2 strides, his hands closing around my shoulders. "Are you hurt?" "What?" "No, I'm fine. I looked up at him, and something in his face made my breath catch. "Caius, he's stable now, but this is the 3rd major episode in 18 hours. His heart can't take much more." "What triggered it?" "I don't know. I was asleep. The monitors woke me. I pulled away from him, moved to check Arsenio's vitals manually, because I didn't trust the machines anymore. But this wasn't random. The timing, the severity, someone's escalating. Who had access to this room? Your guards, your medical staff, anyone with clearance to this wing. I met his eyes. Anyone you trust. His jaw tightened. I'll find them. How? By interrogating everyone? That could take days. He doesn't have days, Caius. I checked the IV line, made sure nothing had been tampered with during the crisis. I need to figure out what's triggering these episodes, the mechanism, the delivery method. Because right now I'm just reacting, and eventually I'm going to react too slowly. He stared at me for a long moment, and I watched something shift behind his eyes. A decision being made. "Come with me," he said. "I can't leave him." "The monitors are linked to my phone. If anything changes, we'll know instantly." He held out his hand. Trust me, I shouldn't have. Every instinct I had screamed that trusting a man like Caius Viscari was a death sentence. But I took his hand anyway. He led me through the estate, past elegant hallways and armed guards and rooms that probably held secrets I didn't want to know, until we reached a study with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and windows overlooking the dawn-gray sea. He pulled out a laptop, typed something, and a series of security feeds appeared on the screen. "This is every camera angle of Arsenio's room for the past 72 hours, he said. "Since I brought him home 3 years ago, I've kept recordings, in case something happened, in case I needed to know." I stared at the screen, at the hours and hours of footage. "You've been watching him this whole time?" "I watch everything that matters." He pulled up a chair. "Show me what to look for." We spent the next 2 hours reviewing footage. It was meticulous, mind-numbing work, watching people come and go, guards doing their rounds, medical staff checking vitals, cleaners refreshing water bowls. And then I saw it. There, I grabbed his arm, pointed at the screen. "Go back 30 seconds. He rewound the footage. A woman in scrubs, medical staff, I assumed, entering the room. She moved to the automated feeder, adjusted something. Efficient, professional. Nothing obviously wrong. "What am I looking at?" Caius asked. "Her hands. Watch her hands." We watched again. This time I saw it clearly, the way she palmed something small, the way she dropped it into the feeder's reservoir so smoothly it looked like nothing. "She's dosing his food," I said quietly. "Something. Cardiotoxic, probably. Small amounts, timed to release slowly. That's why the episodes are unpredictable. It depends on when he eats, how much, how his body metabolizes it." Caius's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. "Her name is Valentina," he said, his voice utterly flat. "She's been with my organization for 6 years. I trusted her." "Who does she report to?" "My head of security." He was already typing, pulling up more files. "Who reports directly to me?" "Could she be working alone?" "No one in my world works alone, Alara. If she's poisoning Arsenio, someone ordered it. Someone with enough access to know he matters. Someone who wants to hurt me where I'm vulnerable." I looked at him, at the rigid control in his shoulders, the fury he was banking so carefully. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "Find out who gave the order, then make sure they never give another one." He closed the laptop, stood. "But first, I'm going to make sure Arsenio is safe, permanently." "Caius." "No one else touches him, Alara. From this moment forward, you're the only person who feeds him, medicates him, handles his care. I'll have the automated systems disabled. Everything goes through you." "That's not sustainable. I can't be awake 24 hours a day." "Then I'll help you," I blinked. "You?" "You'll teach me what to watch for, how to administer medication, what signs mean danger." He moved closer, and his eyes were burning now, all that carefully banked fury turning into something sharp and focused. "I won't lose him because I was too proud to learn. And I won't lose you because I didn't do everything possible to keep you both safe." The way he said it, "lose you," made something in my chest twist painfully. "This isn't just about the cat anymore, is it?" I asked quietly. "No." He reached out, and his fingers brushed my cheek so gently I almost didn't feel it. "It stopped being just about the cat the moment you brought him back from the dead, and looked at me like I was a man instead of a monster." My breath caught. "Caius." His phone buzzed. He checked it, and his whole body went rigid. "What?" I asked, suddenly cold. "Arsenio's heart rate is spiking again." We ran. By the time we reached his room, the monitors were screaming and Arsenio was seizing. And I had maybe 60 seconds before this turned catastrophic. I grabbed the medication I'd prepared earlier, anticipating this, dreading this, and administered it directly into his IV line, while Caius held him steady with hands that didn't shake, despite the terror I could see in his face. "Talk to him," I said while I worked. "Let him hear your voice." "Arsenio." Caius's voice was rough, broken. "Stay with me. You don't get to leave. Not like this. Not when she's here. Not when we finally have someone who can help. The seizing stopped. The heart rate stabilized. Arsenio's eyes opened, those huge, amber eyes, and he looked directly at Caius with an expression that was far too knowing for a cat. And then he looked at me. I felt it like a physical touch, that gaze, like he was saying thank you, like he understood exactly what was happening and was choosing to trust us with his life. He knows, I whispered. Caius made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Of course he knows. He's always been too smart for his own good. He leaned down, pressed his forehead against Arsenio's, and I saw his shoulders shake once, just once. Then he straightened, composed himself with visible effort, and looked at me. Thank you, he said. Again. We're not out of danger yet. Whoever ordered this will try again. They know we're onto them now, which makes them desperate. I checked the monitors one more time, made sure everything was stable. We need to end this, soon, before he doesn't have another save left in him. I know. Caius moved to the window, stared out at the grounds. I'll have Valentina brought in for questioning. She'll tell me who gave the order. They always do. And then what? He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was careful. Then I'll handle it. Handle it how? However is necessary. I crossed the room, stood between him and the window, so he had to look at me. You told me you don't lie about things that matter, so don't lie now. What does handle it mean? His eyes searched my face. What do you want me to say, Alara? That I'll call the police? That I'll let the legal system deal with someone who tried to murder the only thing I have left of my sister? That I want you to say you won't kill them. The words hung in the air between us like a blade. Why? He asked softly. Why does it matter to you what I do to someone who tried to kill him? Who would have succeeded if you hadn't been brilliant and stubborn and brave? Because I stopped, tried to find the words. I can't stay here, can't help you, can't be part of this if you're going to kill people. I save lives, Caius. I don't take them, and I won't be complicit in... You think you're not already complicit? His voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it now. You think the moment you walked through those doors with me, you weren't choosing my world? My rules? I chose to save a dying cat. That's not the same as choosing murder. Isn't it? He stepped closer, and I could feel the heat of him, the barely controlled fury. You keep him alive. You keep me functional. You keep me from making the kind of mistakes that get people killed. You're not separate from this, Alara. You're essential to it. Then I'll leave. The words came out shaky but determined. I'll write down everything he needs, every medication, every protocol. I'll teach your staff. No, you can't keep me here. I can. I will. He caught my wrist, not hard but firm, grounding. Because we both know you won't actually leave. Not while he's still in danger. Not while there's still a chance you can save him. He was right. I hated that he was right. Compromise, I said desperately. You don't kill them. You ruin them. Exile them. Have them arrested, but not killed. Please, Caius. If you want me to stay, if you want me to help you, you have to give me that. He stared at me for a long moment, and I watched him wrestle with it. Watched duty and desire war across his face. Finally, he nodded. Once. Sharp. Fine. No killing. For you. He released my wrist. But everyone will know it's because of you. That I went soft. That I let someone live who tried to hurt what's mine. Do you understand what that means? It means people will think you're weak. It means people will target you to get to me. He cupped my face with one hand, and his thumb brushed across my cheekbone. It means I'm choosing you over power, over reputation, over every rule I've lived by for the last decade. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could feel it. Why? I whispered. Because somewhere between you bringing him back from the dead and you standing in my study at dawn, analyzing security footage, like you're hunting a killer. He stopped, breathed. Because you look at me like I'm still human. And I want to be human again, even if it's just for you. Then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was raw and desperate and tasted like fear and relief, and 3 days of terror neither of us had admitted to feeling. I kissed him back because I couldn't not kiss him back. because my hands were already fisting in his shirt, and my body was already pressing against his like I was trying to prove we were both still alive. His hand slid into my hair, cradled my skull like I was something precious and breakable, and he kissed me like I was oxygen, and he'd been drowning. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard, and his forehead was resting against mine. That was a mistake, I whispered. Probably. This can't happen. Too late. His lips curved against my temple. Already happened. Caius. I know. He pulled back just enough to look at me, and his eyes were softer than I'd ever seen them. I know all the reasons this is wrong, but I don't care. And judging by the way you just kissed me, neither do you. He was right. God help me, he was right. A knock at the door shattered the moment. Caius stepped back, his face going hard and controlled again. What? One of his men entered, and the expression on his face made my blood run cold. We have a problem, he said. Valentina is dead. Suicide, they're saying. But the scene is clean. Too clean. Caius went absolutely still. When? 20 minutes ago, in the staff quarters. Pills and alcohol. She left a note confessing to the poisoning, saying she acted alone. Convenient. Too convenient. The man glanced at me, then back to Caius. Sir, if she was silenced, then whoever ordered this is cleaning up loose ends. Caius's voice was ice, which means they're about to make their final move. Double. Security on Dr. Wynne and Arsenio. No one in or out of this wing without my personal clearance. And find out who Valentina talked to in the last 48 hours. Every conversation, every message, every breath. The man nodded and left. I stood there, my lips still tingling from Caius's kiss, my heart still racing, and tried to process what had just happened. Someone had murdered the only lead we had, which meant someone was desperate enough to kill to keep their identity secret, and that someone was still here, in this house, with access. A small, useless part of me wondered if she'd still be alive if I'd insisted we question her the second we saw that footage. Alara. Caius's voice was gentle. I need you to do something for me. What? I need you to be bait. I stared at him. What? Whoever ordered this wants to destabilize me, wants to take away the things that keep me human. He moved closer, and his eyes were burning with something fierce and calculating. First Arsenio, now you. They're going to come for you next, and when they do, I need to be ready. You want to use me as bait. My voice came out flat. I want to catch them before they can hurt you, which means giving them an opportunity and being there when they take it. He gripped my shoulders. I won't let anything happen to you. You have my word. Your word. I pulled away. The same word you gave me about not killing people? How's that working out? I didn't kill Valentina. But you would have. If she'd lived long enough to interrogate, you would have killed her, or the person who gave the order, or anyone else who got in your way. I wrapped my arms around myself. This is your world, Caius, not mine. I save things. You destroy them. Then help me save something. He gestured toward Arsenio. Help me save him. Save us. Because if we don't end this now, whoever's behind it will just try again. And again. Until they succeed. I looked at the cat, at Arsenio, sleeping peacefully now after his latest brush with death, and felt the trap close around me. Because he was right. Running wouldn't save Arsenio. Hiding wouldn't save him. The only way forward was through. What's your plan? I asked quietly. Relief flickered across his face. We fake a transfer. Make it look like I'm moving Arsenio to a more secure location, somewhere remote. They'll have to move fast, take the opportunity while he's vulnerable. Use the coastal road, I said. Limited exits, no crowds. If they've been watching your routines, they'll know it's the best place to hit you and think they're clever for choosing it. And I'll be with him. You'll be with him, with a full security detail hidden, watching every approach. At the first sign of threat, we close the net. And if something goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, then I'll burn down this entire organization to keep you safe. He said it like a promise, like a threat, like both. You and Arsenio are the only things in this world that matter to me anymore, Alara. I won't lose either of you. I should have said no. Should have walked away while I still could. But somewhere between bringing a dying cat back from the edge and kissing a man who was trying not to be a monster, I'd stopped being Dr. Alara Wynne, who ran a small clinic and saved helpless animals. I'd become someone who hunted killers, someone who set traps, someone who chose action over safety. When? I asked. Tomorrow night. I'll have everything ready. He pulled out his phone, started typing. In the meantime, I need you to rest, eat, prepare. I need to call my mother. Already arranged. She's safe at the clinic with full protection. She thinks you're doing an extended consultation. His eyes met mine. She doesn't need to know you're hunting a killer. No, I agreed. She doesn't. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Looked back at me with an expression I couldn't read. Alara. What? That kiss was a mistake, I finished. You said so yourself. No. He crossed back to me, fast and sudden, and kissed me again. Harder this time, more certain. That kiss was the first thing I've done right in 3 years. Don't take it back. Then he was gone, and I was alone with a sleeping cat, and the taste of him still on my lips, and the terrible knowledge that I'd just agreed to risk my life to save his. But as I settled into the chair beside Arsenio's bed and watched his chest rise and fall in steady living rhythm, I realized something. I wasn't doing this just for the cat anymore. I was doing it for the man who looked at a dying animal and saw the last piece of his humanity. The man who'd chosen not to kill because I'd asked him not to. The man who'd kissed me like I was worth burning his entire world down for. I was doing this for Caius, and that terrified me more than any threat ever could. The transfer was set for midnight. I spent the day preparing Arsenio for transport, checking and rechecking every detail of his mobile medical setup, while Caius's men moved around me like shadows, preparing for war. Because that's what this was, I realized. War. Just fought with medical equipment and security protocols instead of guns. Though there were plenty of guns, too. Caius appeared in the doorway as I was finishing the final medication check. He'd changed into dark tactical gear that made him look even more dangerous than usual, and the sight of him made my stomach flip in a way that had nothing to do with fear. Ready? He asked. As ready as I'll ever be. I adjusted Arsenio's IV line one more time. His vitals are stable. The transport carrier is climate-controlled and shock-absorbed. If we keep the drive smooth, he should be fine. And you? I looked up at him. What about me? Are you fine? Was I? I was about to deliberately put myself in danger to catch a killer. I'd kissed a man who terrified and fascinated me in equal measure. I'd crossed lines I'd sworn I'd never cross. No, I said, honestly. But I'm doing it anyway. Something shifted in his expression. He crossed the room, took my face in his hands, and kissed me. Softer this time, slower, like he was memorizing the taste of me. If anything goes wrong, he said against my lips, you run. You don't try to be brave. You don't try to save anyone. You just run. Understand? I understand. I don't think you do. His thumb traced my cheekbone. I've built this organization on fear and control, and the absolute certainty that I will always win. But if something happens to you tonight, none of that matters. I will tear this world apart. Do you understand? I did. That was the terrifying part. Nothing's going to happen, I said, trying to convince myself as much as him. Your plan is solid. We'll catch them, and this will be over. Yes, he kissed my forehead. It will. But something in his voice made me think he didn't quite believe it either. The convoy assembled at 11:45 p.m. 3 vehicles. The middle one held Arsenio's medical transport unit, with me beside him and 2 guards in the front. Caius rode in the lead vehicle, coordinating everything through an earpiece I could hear crackling with quiet commands. We pulled out of the estate gates, and my heart started pounding. The route took us along the coastal road, cliffs on one side and the Black Sea on the other. Isolated, remote, exactly the kind of place where an ambush would make sense. Status? Caius's voice came through the earpiece. All clear, someone responded. No movement on any approach vector. I checked Arsenio's monitors. His heart rate was elevated, stress from the movement, but stable. I adjusted his oxygen flow, murmured something soothing even though he was sedated. You're okay, I whispered. We're going to keep you safe, I promise. 10 minutes into the drive, the lead vehicle's tires exploded. The sound was massive, like gunshots, and our driver swerved hard to avoid collision. I grabbed Arsenio's carrier with both hands, held it steady while my own body slammed against the restraints. Contact, someone shouted through the comms. Spike strip across the road. Vehicle 1 disabled. Vehicle 3. Another explosion, behind us this time. We were boxed in. Alara! Caius's voice was absolutely calm. Stay in the vehicle. Guards, defensive positions. Do not let anyone near that transport unit. Our doors flew open and the guards were out, weapons drawn, moving to create a perimeter around us. I could see headlights approaching from both directions. 2 vehicles, moving fast. This was it. The trap was springing. I checked Arsenio again, still stable, thank God. And then I saw something that made my blood freeze. Our driver was slumped over the wheel, not moving. Caius, I said into the comm. Our driver is down, I think. I see him. His voice had an edge now. Alara, the guard to your right. Look at him. I looked. The guard was backing away from the vehicle, toward the approaching. Headlights, not defensive, retreating. He's one of them, I breathed. Yes. Caius's voice was ice. Stay down, I'm coming to you. But I couldn't stay down, because the guard, the traitor, was turning now, raising his weapon, and it was pointed directly at Arsenio's carrier. No. I threw open my door and stepped out, putting myself between him and the cat. Don't, I said, and my voice was steadier than I felt. Whatever they're paying you, it's not worth this. He smiled. It's not about money, Dr. Wynne. It's about sending a message. Then everything happened at once. Caius appeared from the lead vehicle, moving like violence personified. The traitor's finger tightened on the trigger, and I did the stupidest, bravest thing I'd ever done. I lunged forward and slammed into him. The gun went off. Pain exploded through my shoulder, white hot and consuming. But I'd knocked his aim off enough that the bullet went wide. Then Caius was there, and the traitor was on the ground, wheezing as Caius's men pinned his arms, and strong hands were pulling me back toward the vehicle. Alara! Caius's voice, rough with something that might have been fear. Let me see. I'm fine. The words came out through gritted teeth. Arsenio. Check Arsenio. He's fine. You're bleeding. It went through. Clean shot. I've seen worse. I hadn't, but I was in shock and possibly dying, and I needed him to focus. Caius. Who sent him? The traitor was pinned now, 3 guards holding him down, and Caius turned to him with an expression that made me genuinely afraid for the first time since I'd met him. Who gave the order? Caius asked, his voice terribly soft. The man spat blood. Go to hell. I'll ask once more. Who gave the order? Someone who knows you've gone soft. Someone who knows that little cat and that little vet are making you weak. He laughed, and it sounded wrong. Someone who's going to take everything from you, Viscari. Starting tonight. Caius pulled out his phone, made a call. The estate, he said. Now. Then he was lifting me, carrying me to the remaining functional vehicle despite my protests, and I was too dizzy to fight him. What's happening? I managed. This wasn't the real attack. His voice was grim. This was the distraction. They wanted us out here, away from the estate, away from... He stopped. His face went white. Your mother, I whispered. They're going after my mother. He was already shouting orders, already commandeering the vehicle, already driving like a man possessed back toward the city. I held pressure on my shoulder with one hand and Arsenio's carrier with the other, and prayed we wouldn't be too late. We made the drive in 15 minutes. It should have taken 30. Caius barely stopped the vehicle before he was out, running toward the clinic, and I was right behind him despite the blood loss and the pain and the fact that I could barely stand. The clinic door was open. Inside, I could hear shouting, crashing. My mother's voice raised in fury. We burst through to find her standing in the middle of the surgical room with a scalpel in her hand, facing down 2 men I didn't recognize. And behind her, protecting the cages of animals that couldn't flee, was one of Caius's guards, the one he'd left to protect her, doing his job. Mama, I shouted. She turned, saw me bleeding, and her face went from fierce to terrified in an instant. The two men tried to run. They didn't make it far. Caius's backup team arrived 30 seconds later, and suddenly the clinic was full of armed men, and the two attackers were face down on the ground, and my mother was crushing me in a hug that made my shoulder scream. "You're hurt," she said in Italian, her hands already checking the wound with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd been a nurse before she became a vet. "Dio mio, Ilara, you're shot." "I'm okay. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. They didn't touch me." "Giorgio," she gestured to Caius's guard. He stopped them before they could get close. She pulled back, looked at me with eyes full of questions. "What is happening? Who are these people? Why?" "I'll explain everything." I looked at Caius, who was standing over the two men with an expression that promised slow, painful consequences. "But first we need to make sure it's over." He pulled one of the attackers up by his collar, slammed him against the wall. "Who sent you?" His voice was death. The man's eyes flicked to me, to my mother, back to Caius. "Dante," he gasped. "Dante Rossi. He said you'd gone soft over a cat and a woman. Said it was time for new leadership. Said if we took them out, you'd fall apart. The family would follow him." Caius went very still. "Dante Rossi," he repeated. "My head of security. The man who'd reported directly to him. The man he'd trusted with everything." "Where is he now?" Caius asked. "The estate. Waiting to hear we'd succeeded. Waiting to—" The man's eyes widened as he realized what he'd just confessed. Caius dropped him, pulled out his phone, made a call. "Dante Rossi is a traitor," he said, his voice carrying absolute authority. "Lock down the estate. Find him. Hold him for my arrival. No one touches him until I get there. Understood?" He ended the call, turned to me. "It's done," he said quietly. "It's over." I wanted to believe him. But I was bleeding on my clinic floor. My mother was traumatized. And somewhere in Caius's estate was a man who'd orchestrated all of this to take him down. It wasn't over yet. "Take me with you," I said. "Ilara, you need a hospital." "I need to see this through." I held his gaze. "You promised me no killing. I need to make sure you keep that promise." Something flickered across his face. Respect, maybe. Or resignation. "Fine," he looked at my mother. "Mrs. Wynne, I'm leaving guards here. No one gets in or out without clearance. You'll be safe." My mother looked between us, and I saw the moment she understood. Understood that her daughter had fallen into something dark and dangerous and maybe beautiful. "Keep her safe," she said to Caius. "Or I don't care how powerful you are. I will end you." He smiled. Just slightly. "I believe you." The drive back to the estate was a blur of pain and adrenaline, and Caius's hand tight on mine. When we arrived, his men had Dante Rossi in the main study, bound to a chair, surrounded by guns. He looked up when we entered, and his face twisted with contempt. "The vet," he sneered. "Of course you brought the vet. Can't even handle business without her holding your hand now." Caius crossed the room in 3 strides, and backhanded him so hard his chair rocked. "You tried to kill my sister's cat," he said quietly. "You tried to kill the woman who saved him. You tried to take everything that matters to me and burn it down. Why?" "Because you're weak," Dante spat blood. "You used to be ruthless, feared. Now you're making deals instead of examples, going soft over animals and women. The family needs strong leadership, not whatever pathetic shadow you've become." Caius looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked at me. "What should I do with him?" he asked. The room went silent. Everyone was watching us, watching to see if Caius would keep his word, if he'd stay soft for me. "Turn him over to the authorities," I said. "Let the legal system handle it. You have evidence, confessions, witnesses. Let it be done the right way." "The right way," Dante laughed. "You hear this? She wants the police. After everything we've built, everything we control, she wants to call the police." "Yes," Caius said. "I do." The room went dead silent. "Sir," one of his men started. "I said I do." Caius's voice cut like a blade. "Dante Rossi will be turned over to the authorities. He'll face charges for attempted murder, conspiracy, and everything else we can make stick. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison." He leaned down until his face was inches from Dante's. And every day he's there, he'll know it's because I chose mercy over vengeance. That I let him live not because I couldn't kill him, but because someone I care about asked me not to. He straightened, addressed the room. Let this be understood. I am not weak. I am not soft. I have simply chosen to draw new lines about what kind of man I want to be. And anyone who mistakes that choice for weakness will learn exactly how wrong they are. He turned to his second in command. Call our contact in the prosecutor's office. Full cooperation. I want every charge that can stick. Sir, that's an order. The man nodded, pulled out his phone. Caius came to me, took my good hand, led me out of the study while his men processed what had just happened. You kept your word, I said quietly. I told you I don't lie about things that matter. He guided me toward the medical wing. Now let's get that shoulder properly treated before you pass out. I'm not going to... The world tilted. His arms caught me before I hit the ground. Or maybe you are, he said. And there was something almost tender in his voice. Hold on, Alara, just hold on. I woke in a private hospital room with late afternoon sun streaming through expensive curtains and my shoulder properly bandaged and aching dully. Caius was asleep in a chair beside my bed, still in his tactical gear, dried blood on his hands. My blood, I realized. I must have made a sound because his eyes opened immediately. Hey, he said softly. Hey. My voice was rough. How long was I out? 18 hours. They had to do minor surgery to repair some tissue damage. He moved to the bed, took my good hand. You're going to be fine. Full recovery expected. And Arsenio, a smile ghosted across his face. At the estate, being monitored by the team you trained. He's stable, eating, responding well to the adjusted medication protocol. And Dante? In custody, singing like a bird to cut a deal. He'll be away for a very long time. Caius's thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. It's over, Alara. Really over. I should have felt relieved. I did feel relieved. But I also felt something else. Something that made my chest ache. What happens now? I asked quietly. Now. He lifted my hand to his lips, kissed my knuckles gently. Now I keep my promises. Your clinic is getting a very generous anonymous donation. Enough to pay off every debt, upgrade every piece of equipment, and keep you running for the next decade. Caius, your mother's building is being purchased by a shell company I control. The rent will never go up. No one will ever threaten to demolish it. He met my eyes. You'll be protected, always, but at a distance. No more men in black suits scaring your clients. No more late-night emergencies involving criminal enterprises. I stared at him, understanding slowly dawning. You're letting me go, I whispered. I'm giving you the choice I should have given you from the beginning. His voice was rough. You can go back to your life, your clinic, your mother, everything you built, with the resources to make it everything you dreamed of, and none of the danger that comes with me. And if I don't want that? His hand tightened on mine. What? If I don't want to go back? I sat up despite the pain, needed to see his face clearly. If I want to stay, help you, be part of this. Alara, you were shot. Because I chose to be there, because I chose to protect Arsenio, to protect you. I gripped his hand with both of mine now. You said I made you want to be human again. Well, you made me want to be more than just a small-town vet treating strays. You made me want to matter, to fight, to choose the dangerous path because it's the one that actually saves lives. You already matter, not like this. I held his gaze. With you, I'm not just patching up wounds and hoping for the best. I'm preventing them, solving them, using my skills to actually change things. I paused. You told me once that valuable things don't get to walk away. What if I don't want to walk away? He searched my face, looking for doubt, for fear. I showed him certainty instead. I'm not asking you to marry me or move into the estate or become some kind of mafia princess, I continued. But I am asking for a partnership, real partnership, where you handle your world and I handle mine, and when they collide, which they will, we handle it together. You want to be my, what? Consulting veterinarian to the criminal underworld? I want to be yours. The words came out quiet but sure. However that looks, whatever that means. I want to keep Arsenio alive, keep you human, maybe save a few more lives along the way. I smiled slightly. And maybe kiss you again without feeling like I'm making a terrible mistake. He stood abruptly, paced to the window, and I thought maybe I'd pushed too far. Then he turned back, and his eyes were blazing. If you stay, it won't be safe. There will always be another threat, another Dante. People who see you as a weakness to exploit. I know. You'll have to learn to live with guards, security protocols, the constant knowledge that loving me makes you a target. I know. And I will be possessive and controlling, and I will want to lock you away somewhere safe every time you take a risk, even though I know you won't let me. I know. I held out my hand. Are you done trying to scare me away? He crossed back to the bed, took my hand, and kissed me like he was sealing a contract. A promise. A choice we were both making with open eyes. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. I love you, he said quietly. I think I've loved you since you told me to get my guns out of your surgical room and looked at me like you'd physically throw me out if I didn't comply. I laughed, and it hurt my shoulder, and I didn't care. I love you too, even though you're terrifying and controlling and you once threatened to hold me hostage. I never actually, you absolutely did. Fair. He kissed me again, softer. So what now? Now you take me to see Arsenio. Then we figure out how to make this partnership work. Then, I paused. Then we save everything we can, together. Together, he agreed. 3 weeks later, I stood in my clinic at closing time, checking the schedule for tomorrow. The place was transformed. New equipment, new staff, new hope. My mother was humming in the back room, organizing supplies we could actually afford now. And outside, a discreet black car waited to take me to the estate, where a blue smoke Maine Coon with a carefully managed heart condition was waiting for his evening checkup. Where Caius would be waiting too, probably in his study, probably reviewing security footage or business reports or whatever it was criminal masterminds did at the end of the day. Where I had a room that was mine, a space that was mine, a life that was mine, just shared with someone who'd shown me what it meant to be fully seen, fully used, fully alive. My phone buzzed. Status. Caius's text read. On my way, I replied. How's our patient? Terrorizing the guards. Ate all his food. Heart rate perfect. So he's fine. He's perfect. Like someone else I know. I smiled, closed up the clinic, and climbed into the car. The driver, one of Caius's men who'd learned to treat me with careful respect, nodded. Good evening, Dr. Wynne. Good evening, Marco. We pulled away from the clinic, heading toward the coast, toward the estate, toward the life I'd chosen, not the safe one, not the simple one, but the one where I mattered, where I fought, where I loved a man who was learning to be human again, one careful choice at a time, and where a cat with a damaged heart got to live, protected and cherished, because two people had refused to let him die. Some things were worth the danger. Some things were worth the risk. Some things, some people, were worth everything. I'd felt his heart stop under my hands once. Now, every steady beat was a reminder that I'd chosen the right kind of danger. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe so you don't miss the next Mafia love story. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what you thought of this narrator. Your feedback really helps me make these even better for you. Thank you for letting my stories keep you company. It truly means more than you know.